All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again, going through another protagonist swap for Bayonetta. After the events of God of War One, she successfully cleared it. Real nail biter on that one.
Ghost of
Did
Sparta.
we do Ghost of
Ghost of
Sparta?
Sparta.
What was Ghost of Sparta
The
last
Ghost
week?
of Sparta. God of War One. That was a while ago.
Okay, just edit my voice to say Ghost of Sparta, like in one of those machine voices.
No, leave this part in. It'd be better.
Okay, so yeah, no. So last one's go Sparta. Bayonetta cleared it. Obviously, she has a better kit than most, unfortunately, of the God of War series, which is not a it's not a hot take. And so now we found ourselves in the throes of God of War 2. So
Yes, she has been transported here again by the omniscient narrator. Um,
yes,
and Athena, seeing this as a pattern, is just like, oh, I guess there's something here for you to do. Because basically, the gods just kind of accept that whenever Bayonetta shows up, she has a task that has to be performed. And then she leaves as quickly as she has arrived. She's
yes,
kind of like, I don't know, a plot device Marvel character that basically comes and goes with each story. That's how they're going to treat her.
yes. So the context here is that
Uh,
Kratos had come back after still rampaging, and then
yes.
Bayonetta just shows up right when Kratos arrives at Athens at the start of the game.
So this is like, well, so, not quite. So this is his invasion of the Greek city states has already begun, and he's basically, much like how the novel depicts it, he has already conquered every city state except for Athens, and his Spartan army is already there. He was about to leave, and then he just gets yeeted. And then Bayonetta shows up, and Athena's like, "Oh, you're here. What perfect timing!" But how coincidental. Anyway, so the Spartans are like laying waste to my city. Could you like go down there and stop that, just like you did, like 10 years ago or
Yeah,
so,
see,
or however long ago it
I
was?
asked Zeus to help me out, but Zeus refuses to play ball.
So a normal day, uh, and
So
everyone else is busy
yeah, so we
doing
find
something.
busy doing something. Poseidon's busy being a disappointment to his family. Hermes is busy being Hermes, and the rest are too busy just trying to avoid Zeus.
Apollo's too busy being based.
Apollo, does he even show up in the
He's so
games?
based. He's so based. We don't even deserve to see him.
So yeah, no. So now I find Bayonetta going through the events of Athens, which I need to open this up because I do not remember specifically what happens in Athens.
Yeah, basically you just have like three, well, technically four areas: the Rhodes Bathhouse, the Rhodes Palace, and the Eastern Rainforest. So I want to be clear here. The entire reason that, well, I guess in this situation it's a little different. Like her goals are a little different because she's just supposed to stop the Spartans. I mean, she can kill them if she needs to, or just like because she has no loyalty to Sparta at all.
Well, so I
Um,
don't think Bayonetta has an issue. I think she does have slightly an issue with killing people, but I don't think she'd really care given that the Spartans are going around raping
no.
and pillaging.
Oh no, they would she would literally just ask Athena like, what are they even doing here? She's like, yeah, no, they're just laying waste to my city, just killing innocent people. Like, and this isn't even the first city they've done this in. They have literally attacked every Greek city state, and she's gonna be like, oh, so they're basically like terrorists. And Athena's like, I don't know what that is, but sure.
Oh yeah, I'll help you out, Athena. You know that seems like a reasonable proposition. So
I
I'm
mean, yeah. So I guess like, what is her objective then? Is it just to kill like the because the only I don't know if there's really a commander on the ground. There is the last Spartan.
well.
He's the only one that like communicates. So
We'll just
uh,
say that Bayonetta's goal, so to speak, is like Athena's like, if you kill these people here, my army can rout the Spartans and like save the people. So we're just gonna say
we'll just
going
say,
through the missions is her like clearing the line for like a flanking strategy from Athena.
yeah, maybe there's several Spartans in the given areas that are commanding officers, and she has to kill them, and then that'll scatter the rest of them.
Or it'll
So
disorganize them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, disorganize them, break
So
morale.
we begin through Rhodes, where Bayonetta proceeds
Uh,
to. Oh,
yeah, everything in the entire levels is literally just like
Normal Spartans.
running through a city. Like just running through a city. Like that's it. Like there are some areas where you might have to do some platforming, but again, Bayonetta can fly, she can jump, she can
Wait,
dimension hop.
does she fight the Colossus of Rhodes or not?
No, because the Colossus of Rhodes only happens as a result of Zeus showing up and taking the power from God of War Kratos and inserting it into a statue. But there's no reason for him to do that if the entire reason that he shows up at that moment is to stop Kratos in his rampage and bring about peace on Olympus, which currently Athena's already got that planned for now. And we will discuss what Zeus will do later. Um, for now, she can just literally go anywhere in the city, and yeah, she'll just be given like information and intel on Athena, like go to these specific locations in the bathhouse, the palace, and certain parts of the ramparts. There's like 3 commanders you got to take out. Once you take them out, then that should route their forces to this area and should basically break their morale completely.
I no.
Yeah, she'll just do that.
I think the Colossus of
Go ahead.
Rhodes is powered by something else, isn't it? Because doesn't Kratos use
No,
the Blade of
no,
Olympus to kill it?
no. So what happens in particular is that he shows up in the city in a giant colossus form. Zeus basically basically zaps him and steals his power. As like basically like an eagle, and then he lands on the Colossus of Rhodes and transfers the energy into Colossus of Rhodes. This is also confirmed in the novel. That's how the Colossus comes to life.
Ah, okay. I
So
forgot that part.
there is no Colossus boss fight in this version
Yes. So
because there is no reason for the Colossus to be used.
so basically, Bayonetta just goes through the city of Athens, slaughtering everything in her way because the Spartans alone have literally less than a 0% chance of winning this fight.
Yeah, at least some of the mythological creatures had some tricks up their sleeve, and then they just died immediately after they were revealed. The sirens had something good initially, but then as soon as Bayonetta figured out how the sirens work, like if you see something that looks like a siren, she just plugs her ears or jumps into Purgatorio or something.
Yeah, and she's
Like
already
she
been
just
here before, so nothing's really gonna surprise her.
yeah I was gonna say she would actually know certain portions of the city's layout because she spent like several days in the city before.
Yeah.
So yeah, she'll know where she needs to go.
Yeah, so she just clears it, fucking kills most of the Spartans there, successfully reaches her goal of, we'll say, the square where Zeus shows up in the actual
Yeah.
game.
We'll just say she kills the last Spartan, like the character, the last Spartan, not the actual like last Spartan guy that you like. That basically is working with Kratos as his second in command, and then the Spartans like flee out of the city, or at least start retreating.
Yes, the final Spartan puts up the slightly best fight, but again, unfortunately, that's within which time be a hell of a drug.
Or like Kratos. Well, she has Kratos' stats, so like Kratos just kind of outscales everybody at this point. So.
Oh, well, I guess the Blade of Olympus doesn't happen in this route, right? Because doesn't he use the blade before this point?
Nope. He gives Kratos the blade to deal with the Colossus, but that's also done specifically so that Kratos can drain
his
powers.
Yeah. So the Blade of Olympus doesn't necessarily happen in this run because there's no reason for Zeus to do that.
Yeah, and he can't trick her into doing it because she has no reason to pick up the blade. So we're at this point. At this point, Zim and I kind of acknowledged that it is almost impossible for her to go through the scenario of God of War 2 because, much like with Ghost of Sparta, we had a similar issue where the plot happens because of something very personal to Kratos' story, which is why it makes sense that Kratos exists there. It doesn't make sense that Bayonetta is there, so we have to come up with a reason for her being there. So since Zeus doesn't really have a problem with Bayonetta in particular, we have to create a problem. And that's actually easy within his character because he's extremely petty, stuck up, and kind of an asshole. So we can just assume he's really pissed off about the fact that Bayonetta is just this mysterious warrior that just keeps showing up in the verse and killing people, sweeping things, doing various accomplishments and deeds, and then leaving as quickly as she comes. And that just that infuriates his like position of power and authority. So he shows up in Athens to teach her a lesson,
Yes.
basically. And he's also paranoid as a result of like Pandora's box. So we'll just say like the actual fear is literally bleeding into his insecurities, and is compelling him to do things that he, even more so than what he would act like in an irrational context.
Yes, we will say that like fucking the reason he didn't help out this time is because he was waiting for it to be on their last leg so he could show up and save them at the last moment to get the most like glory out of it, so people will like him more.
Yeah, and he interprets the scenario as, if I beat Bayonetta, that shows that I'm still like the greatest there is. Not that anyone on Olympus is even interpreting the situation that way. But again, Zeus is extremely paranoid, so like,
Yes.
he's not really self-aware of other people's perceptions, nor does he care.
If they have an issue with it, they can take it up with him.
There's literally scenes in Two's novel where he threatens to throw the lightning bolt at his brothers who are sitting like right next to him multiple times, just because he's pissed off about the situation with Kratos. He also doesn't listen to Athena, even when Athena comes and brings like good advice and counsel to him multiple times. He just like screams at her at the top of her lungs and tells her to get the fuck out of his room. So like, yeah, he's not in a rational state of mind. He's very, paranoid.
Very silly person. So he
Yes,
shows
very,
up
very, very silly person.
to fight Bayonetta, and oh boy.
Okay, so given that she's in Kratos' position, we can say Zeus at this point does scale a little bit higher than her. The problem is that Kratos is still able to, since this would basically be the Kratos that shows up at the end of the game because he gets his powers back, he's able to react and attack Zeus during their fight when Zeus is intended to murder him. So Bayonetta would still be capable of reacting to all of his attacks as if he was basically her equal or was comparable to her. And as we've established in the previous protagonist swaps, Bayonetta has really broken evasive abilities that basically turn her disadvantage state into a massive advantage state, such as you lay a finger on her and she does bats within, nullifying the damage completely and shrinking the area of effect that is her body into bats. So you can't do anything to hurt her at all.
Yes, the problem is that Zeus's main forms of fighting is just brute force and lightning bolts, all things Bayonetta has not only has dealt with before, but she can just nullify, and that's not on top of the fact the bats within that she also has witch time, which I don't know.
And the animal transformations.
I mean, I don't think turning into a fucking panther is really gonna make much of a difference here.
Well, the difference is that like if you're literally in the midst of punching her at eye level and she just shrinks her body down, you can constitute that as a miss.
Bayonetta has
because
wait, is that what you're gonna proc for witch time?
No. I'm saying that's one of like 5 different ways she could dodge you without actually dodging you.
Yeah.
Like I would not consider witch time to be a dodge because you're just telling time, hey, I'm faster now.
Yeah.
Or like bats within isn't even just dodging, you're just morphing into a bat and nullifying the damage completely.
And the problem here is on top of like Zeus has not the worst arsenal since he can multiply his body and he can make himself bigger to try and hit higher AoEs.
His lightning's got stun abilities, it can chain to people. Those are all good abilities for lightning. There's only one problem with that. Bayonetta's already resisted those lightning abilities in reverse. She later has like quick time events just like Kratos, where she could be hit with lightning that's intended to stun her and she can just break out of it. Like that. So
yeah, there's
I could literally just argue that like her that lightning wouldn't do crap to her.
Yeah, you can argue that Zeus could bring in the Blade of Olympus to help him, but I don't really think that sword's gonna make much of a difference against Bayonetta's vast array of dodging capabilities. And that's like not even
I
giving her like the moon of Mahakali or whatever, which literally just gives her
oh yeah,
the fucking basically a golden fleece.
it is stated in every single game verbatim. It will nullify the attack no matter the damage. So it's just like blatant power nullification. And unlike the Golden Fleece, well, while it is a bracelet, if you see the area of effect where the bracelet actually happens, it's a shield around her arm in the form of like a giant like circle that covers in front of her forearm area. So it's not like the Golden Fleece in the sense where she literally has to hold it up. Though she does obviously have to put it in front of her body, but she doesn't have to put the edge of it to the thing and then like reflect it. She can just have her forearm out, and if she times it correctly, it will just like reflect it back at you. It also works on all projectiles as well, with the
Yeah,
exception of ones that have special properties, but that would include his lightning abilities.
yes. Unfortunately, she literally just has a much better arsenal to work with at this point than what Kratos did. So the idea of her dying at this point, to start, because God of War 2 only happens because Kratos dies and then gets saved by the Titans. Yeah, none of that really happens because Zeus would just die here.
I would I would argue that Kratos had enough abilities to put consistent pressure on him, and Kratos doesn't have the ability to dimension hop, nullify all abilities, and shrink his body instantaneously. He doesn't have the ability to stop time on like a universal scale that can affect like people that exist outside of time, or even abilities. Because if you want to take Witch Time to its highest interpretation within the verse, at the beginning of the game where she doesn't have all of her proper abilities, um, there are angels, just basic applaud fodder angels in the ninth sphere of the divine hierarchy that can break her Witch Time. So if we're considering Bayonetta by the end of the game, she would be much stronger than that, especially if we're including her accessories, because she can activate Witch Time on things like the Gracious and Glory, who are unaffected by the powers of Witch Time, of a late game Bayo. So at the lowest possible interpretation, she's got 2 to potentially 3 layers of time manipulation in a verse that doesn't really demonstrate
Alright.
time manipulation resistance.
Well, now hang on a minute. Kratos resisted the Ouroboros amulet back in the
Oh,
same
oh my
shit.
god, we're not gonna have this conversation every single time.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Facts
he
don't care
resisted
about
it
your
so
feelings.
well that the directors literally confirmed he was pinned in the location. We have a cinematic cutscene showing how fucked he was by it.
Source. But no, okay, yeah. So regardless, even if you argue like Zeus could resist the time manipulation, Bayonetta has too much advantages on her table, and that's not including her weapons.
It
We haven't even touched
that's
really her
that's
weapons.
not including her empathetic manipulation, because witches in general can use empathetic manipulation to like attack you with any of their magic abilities. Like that's not including bazillions, which can, I mean, you might be able to argue they have resistance to deconstruction, but like what resistance does he have to things like All Runa that just has curses that just curse you and drive you to madness and insanity just by touching? There's nothing in God of War that drives you to madness just by making like physical contact with it. The closest thing I could think of is like the siren scream, but like even then, that's more so via sound manipulation. I'm just talking like literally touching a curse-based object. That's also extremely poisonous, by the way.
Her entire arsenal just has so many abilities on top of the generic stuff that like in God of War, unfortunately, most of those weapons only really have the generic stuff on top of them. That it just becomes really silly. Zeus has
And
like
then
almost no resistances for half this crap.
I was gonna say Chernobog. She also has other accessories as well, like Sergei's liver, where she, much like Zeus, can also clone herself.
Gonna have a real fucking
So
Madara moment here.
yeah, no, seriously. Like, would you like these clones to use Shiraba or no?
All
You could
right,
resist soul manipulation. Now, how about you resist soul manipulation from 3 copies of me at the same time?
man, it'd be a real
I wonder.
shame if your soul was built like a Jenga tower with 4 parts. That'd be a real shame.
God. Were you able to talk about that with pre-Ragnarok? Well, actually, who am I kidding? We talked about it on the streams.
No. Well, I mean, like, again, so AP, nothing really changes here. Nothing changes in the scenario with Ragnarok or without, because the problem is that Zeus doesn't have the resistances demonstrated for half of Bayonetta's arsenal, and he doesn't have answers for half of Bayonetta's, like, evasive capabilities. The only argument you can make is Zeus AP stomps, but again, you can just argue that at the start of the game, Kratos was already on Zeus's, or at least comparable to Zeus's level.
We're also not including the fact that, like, in addition to that, she also has the demons. Like, we haven't even gotten to the demons or any of their powers or abilities.
The summons, the things she could just pull out of nowhere. Demons.
Yeah, you mean, like,
none of these shenanigans.
Because we now have Bayonetta 3, which basically means Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2 can canonically force their demons in general to attack people, whether they want to or not. And they can also appear out of the ground, out of dimensions, or out of thin air at any point in time during any point when you decide to do an attack. So she could be throwing the whip, and then when she's turning around for no particular reason, Gamora just comes out of the ground and just grabs him. Or like either that or Malphus attacks. Like, she could just keep spamming demons like that. There's no telegraph for it. There's no way to tell when she's going to do it, aside from the fact that she can also, like, Purgatory snipe him. Which she would be, let's be clear here, Bayonetta canonically goes to Purgatory as an Umbred Witch. Or at least in Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2's timeline. Bayonetta 3 for some reason doesn't do Purgatory. But Bayonetta 1 and 2 Umbred Witches are confirmed to be trained to where they go into Purgatory to prevent damage to the mortal realm. It's how they're trained. So, from the beginning of the fight, Zeus is not going to be able to stop her. Like, he won't even be able to interact with her.
So, unfortunately for poor old Zeus, he's just going to get, he's going to get Zeused, if that makes sense.
I know some people will ask, like, well, won't Fear Zeus come out? And yes, we were prepared to handle that. Fear Zeus will come out, but as we're gonna mention, like, in general, we actually have, like, Bayonetta demons, specifically, I believe, Bayonetta 2, that are established to be, like, literally create, like, the concept of faith for all humanity. Which is something that, unlike in God of War, isn't contradicted to be, like, a personal concept or something individualistic. And it does affect all of reality in the same way that fear or hope does in the God of War universe. So, yeah, I could argue that
let me see if I can
Bayonetta being able to interact with... Wait, what?
Let me see if I can't find that angel. Let me see, just to make sure we're correct. I mean, granted, we have another argument to work with for Fear Zeus. It's not this is not the only route. I just want to make sure, like, we're right here.
We have several.
Oh yeah, it is said that the concept of fate did not exist until Rapture's creation.
Yeah, and Raptus is, like, at the bottom of the divine hierarchy. Raptus isn't even considered, like, a Sephiroth or an Archangel.
Don't say it like
Raptus
that.
Isn't even considered like a second sphere or first sphere angel, not one of the cardinal virtues, and not a Dia. So, like, he's at the bottom of the food chain. Whereas Fear in God of War is at the top of the food chain. So, yeah, it's not really looking good. They've literally demonstrated they can also interact with abstract beings as well, not just because they can kill in a Rapture, but they can also fight angels in general who don't have physical forms. They're literally just humans that have passed with their souls to the afterlife. They're just abstract beings. So they will be able to interact with Zeus. And if not, keep in mind, well, the Titans at this point, or at least Gaia, is aware of what's happening in this battle. So you could argue she would just communicate with Bayo. She would just tell her, like, young warrior, or whatever, you're battling the king of the gods. I don't know, like, you must pull greater strength, or there's only one way to defeat his
There's only one way to kill a god, and you need to open Pandora's box to do it, because it has the power to kill a god.
And then Bayonetta's going to be like, what do you mean Pandora's box? I'm like, yeah, like the Pandora's box. I'm like, yeah, no, I understand, but I already opened that. The guy will be like, what?
Oh well, you
Like, yeah,
should have the power
I used
inside
it.
you.
I used it to kill Ares like 10 years ago or something. Like, wait, you're the mortal that came here to save Athens? Like, yeah. Like, oh, well, then you should already have the power. And then
Go use it.
Bayonetta will just be like, well, what kind of power is it? It just exists within your soul, I guess. She'll be like, oh, hang on a minute, and then she'll just go into purgatory, and that's being the fact that she's a witch. Witches in the what is it, the Bayonetta cosmology are specifically trained to have complete, total, like mental and spiritual control over their powers. They're trained to have that from the beginning. She would not only notice, oh yeah, there is something inside of my soul. Let me just go and get that really quickly.
That
Because she could just
there.
go inside purgatory and there's nothing Fear Zeus can do to stop her. Because he can't interact with her. So yeah, she'll just like, oh, is this the power of hope that was mentioned? Oh, okay. All right, now I'm gonna go back and kick his ass, and she'll just go back and do literally the same thing she was doing before.
Except this time
yeah.
she can kill Fear Zeus. So Power of Hope Bayonetta squares up and just dominates. Also, before someone asks, wouldn't Fear Zeus destroy her weapons and shit? Because like he did the Kratos, Fear Zeus wouldn't be able to hit Bayonetta.
And unlike Kratos, she actually tends to pay attention when she's like finishing off an enemy.
To be
typically.
fair, Kratos basically had him dead. That was kind of weird that he came back up.
I would also like to point out it's technically questionable if Zeus even gets access to the fear, because if he is killed by Bayonetta, what Bayonetta is going to do on the final strike, canonically, is that she'll just feed him to one of her demons, and he'll just get sent to Inferno. So I can literally just argue he'll get dragged to hell, and the concept of fear will get dragged with him because it's within his soul.
No, bad mangler, very bad mangler.
So yeah, maybe you could say like, oh, the concept of fear will be dangerous. Not that she can't like counter that with her own, with stuff in her own verse, or with the stuff she's given in this one, because this is a protagonist swap. But like, even if the concept of fear were to come out, like he would get dragged to Inferno before that ever even happens. So it would be trapped like his body in Inferno.
So,
and then of course, we'll go ahead.
Okay, so with that in mind, again, like God of War 2 doesn't really happen, but because of how integral Zeus is to God of War 3, God of War 3 basically doesn't happen now.
Yeah, so given the situation, we're inclined to say that most of the gods, as soon as they figure out Zeus is battling down there and is yoinked and yeeted, are probably going to arrive shortly after, like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with each other at a conference on Olympus. They're probably going to arrive via like their various scrying pools, their Hyperion gates and whatnot, and show up in various areas from across their realms and arrive in the same arena to fight Bayonetta. Because, she
just killed.
She basically just killed their leader. Yeah.
I mean, you could argue like there is a possibility they just wouldn't like do anything and just let her leave, and they would just roll the Pantheon on their own. But at least some of them, as an immediate response to Zeus's death, would probably go to try and fight her, like Hercules.
Poseidon, and Hades definitely would, because they'd see it as taking revenge for their brother.
Yeah,
Athena definitely would, because even if Athena thinks her father's paranoid, she doesn't hate her father. He's still her father. So like.
So yeah, basically just imagine the gods from God of War 3, with the exception of Hephaestus and Aphrodite, who never did anything to begin with, and the ones who don't show up come in to fight Bayonetta all together in like an effort to take her down.
I'm going to be clear here. I'm going to be completely honest. First of all, if she had the power of hope, they're all going to die in one hit, regardless. One hit from Bayo will kill any of them immediately. But if she doesn't, and she
still gets brutalized again.
Even if she doesn't, she just demonstrated she could kill all of them and BFR them to Inferno. So, yeah, like there's like not only are they not fighting on their home turf or anything, they're fighting in an area she's at least somewhat familiar with, and she can literally just. I hate having to say the purgatory snipe thing, but yeah, she could literally just purgatory snipe them, or in general, like she wouldn't let herself get hit by any of the God of War characters.
The problem is that
None of
like
the gods.
Zeus had a slightly better arsenal than most of them, and he's also technically a little bit faster and strong. He's definitely stronger than them, but he's also a little bit faster than most of them, except maybe Hermes. But there's an argument to be made that Zeus is faster than Hermes. And at that
Even
point,
if Hermes is faster, he can't do anything with that speed except run into her.
and not only that, but again, he wouldn't be resistant to time manipulation, at least not Bayonetta's level. So the gods all come in for a team up. She witch times once and basically kills them all.
Yeah.
There's sadly there's just
Or
not
which
much
times summons Gamora and just periodically eats all of them and send them to Inferno. Or she could just stab all of them with Chernobog and send them to Inferno.
Poseidon squares up with his horse and she just summons fucking literally any demon and just kills Poseidon.
She summons Phantasmaria and just is just like, oh, you want to fight in the water? We can do that.
It's like that won't be a problem for me.
Yeah, like I could also just say that Phantasmaria actually has like really really strong webbing, something that like binding properties, which is something the God of War characters are actually specifically shown to be weak against. Not saying Bayonetta would know that, but Bayonetta does canonically use Phantasmaria against a waterborne enemy. So I can argue that she would very much make the decision to do it here if Poseidon decides to become one with the water in the harbor near Athens.
And just for shits and giggles, if anyone's like, what about Ascended Athena showing up to fight?
Ascended Athena doesn't show up to fight and has no feats. Also, Ascended Athena was convinced that her best course of action was to let Zeus die, which already happened before the fight. So, no, that's not really happening. That makes no sense in the context of the story, and we can't explain away reason the way we did with Zeus. There's literally no reason. Also, Ascended Athena only happens, like, for those people who want to mention it, you do realize that Ascended Athena only occurs because she sacrifices herself to save Zeus. She does something noble here. There's nothing really noble in this situation about throwing yourself at Bayonetta, because Bayonetta's not trying to overthrow the gods. She's actually just fighting in self-defense because she got attacked first. So it wouldn't be noble to die at your hands. At this point, you're literally just enacting revenge. Which, yeah, maybe it's like justified, but like it wouldn't be noble in the context of the broader world. She's not saving the world. If anything, if all the gods are throwing themselves at Bayonetta and dying, their deaths would be affecting the world in a negative way. That would actually be a stupid decision and a very not noble decision.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot that when the gods are dying, the world's just falling apart. I was literally going to say, so Kratos comes back to a slightly less ruined Greece, but no, they're all dying, so literally everything's still just going to shit.
He shows up and he's just like, I will have my revenge.
Oh.
Where did everybody go?
Well, I guess It's time for me to head north.
He gets the real mellowing up period.
Yeah, he realizes, he sees what revenge causes and realizes I should become a better person, and then he leaves to become a pacifist, and we get a better...
I will not be sorry. I will be better.
And then we just get the God of War theme playing as he walks into the sunset, or whatever's left of the sun, because it's technically close. He makes a boat and he takes off.
I did discuss the possibility of technically. I think it's possible that Athena might not show up here in the battle because or either that or like Bayonetta might just knock her unconscious because Athena's like the only person she likes, so she probably would kill her.
I think it would make more sense if Athena just doesn't fight because she saw Zeus die and she would probably have the smarts to realize, you know what? If Zeus died to her, I probably don't stand a fucking chance.
She would do what the one she would do the one duty and job that is expected to her as the goddess of foresight, and that's called having some fucking foresight.
The actual Greek pantheon is just left with Athena ruling, Hephaestus helping the rebuild, and Aphrodite just being a slut there in the corner. And whatever Artemis does, I don't. Artemis and Apollo are there. What? Oh,
Well,
hang on a minute.
wait, did we not argue that Artemis shows up to fight because she does show up in God of War 1 and I guess the novel. So
We'll say that she arrives too late, and by the time she's there, everyone else is dead. She didn't do anything to deserve dying. It's okay.
all right, well,
I actually forgot that Artemis is in the novel because she's never shown in the fucking games.
hey. Well, actually, she does show up in God of War 1, but you only see like her.
You see her face, and those faces are not accurate because you've seen Hades. What Hades looks like in God of War 1. Motherfucker looks like a fucking alien.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely did a redesign on a lot of those, especially Aphrodite's and Poseidon's.
I don't remember what Aphrodite looked like. I don't remember what Poseidon looked like. I'll have to look at the faces.
Yeah, you have to do a comparison check. So yeah, I don't think there's really
so you could argue
anything else to discuss here.
Potential timeline, Greece isn't completely destroyed. If Athena's around, because with the Blade of Olympus and with the Titans, she'd probably broker peace with them, and they'd probably come back to normal. Greece might not be fucked, but it's basically fucked for a while. But yeah, beyond that.
Yeah, technically Hera and Artemis are still alive, so they might be able to use their powers to preserve the woodlands and the forests, but they would have to find a way to submerge the water level or grow crops on the surfaces.
Titan of the ocean. Anyways.
Yeah, they're gonna have to negotiate with Oceanus.
Yeah, no, so technically not fucked. But so with that said, that is God of War 2 and 3 for Bayonetta, because 3 doesn't exist in the context of what happens with 2 with Bayonetta involved. And with that said, we will be doing the Norse Pantheon relatively soon, since unfortunately, for better or for worse, God of War 4 and 5 suffer the same issue 2 and 3 suffered from today. Because they're very interlinked with each other. And a lot of the story only happens because Kratos is, how do I put this delicately, a tad bit incompetent at handling his foes. So yeah, no.
Maybe I should put the God of War 3 guide down there in the chat now, because
oh yeah,
apparently that should have been there.
Oh yeah, really, we didn't even touch God of War 3 at all. Poor fucking Dalius or Daedalus or whatever. He's still stuck in the boxes. hey, actually, wait, hang on, man. Things work out better for Daedalus because whatchamacallit, his son or whatever isn't dead. Icarus doesn't die in this round, right? Because she dies to Kratos, right? Bayonetta in the second game.
I'm sure that matters. Well, actually, wait. I know someone's probably going to mention the Sisters of Fate, because the Sisters of Fate would probably attempt to use their powers. I've got to already mention this before, but the Sisters of Fate don't really have any control over the fucking demons. There's nothing that they would be able to do to stop her from just like that. Plus, the Sisters of Fate obviously would also be able to acknowledge that they aren't able to control Bayonetta showing up in the timeline. Not to mention, well, if she gets the power of hope,
she would resist.
Yeah, there's not really anything they could do.
And just if everything else fails, the Sisters of Fate don't really control fate. They're more of
they control life
and life manipulation.
They control life throughout the flow of time.
And
it's life manipulation throughout the flow of time.
And we can argue, based on the events of Bayonetta 3's ending, that at least Bayonetta 1 Bayo can potentially just ignore her own destruction.
Well, we can argue that she can fight a character that literally overrides all forms of causality and fate and probability. So at that point, no, she literally fights both Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 Bayo. Not only fight singularity, they come back at the end do the fusion dance with Bayo 3 Bayo and fight Singularity Chaos, who has become one with literally every single aspect of the entire multiverse, including all of its laws, rules, time, fate, literally everything. So I would argue that's not only better than the Sisters of Fate, that is the actual interpretation of how some people interpret the Sisters of Fate's abilities to be on an infinitely more broken scale and range. So there is nothing that they could possibly do to her at all.
Yeah, and they probably wouldn't even get involved.
Go ahead.
They probably wouldn't expect Zeus to lose, and if he is going to lose, they probably would see how badly he's losing, and they'd probably just call it quits on the Greek gods and wait for whatever next pantheon takes over.
I'm going to be honest. You can't even predict what the Sisters of Fate would do, because in the novel, they're literally bicker and fight about who should win. One of them is like, you know what, maybe we should bring back the Titans. Like, no, I'm interested in Kratos. Like, no. The gods should rule. And you know how they go about determining that? One of them sneaks off of the island, runs to Olympus, and contacts Iris and attempts to get Hermes fired from his job. They are not coordinated in their interpretation, which is what they need to be to use their power. So you can't even argue that.
So yeah, that basically covers all our bases here. Greek Pantheon moves on. We will be discussing Norse Pantheon next time. And yeah.
Yes.
So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on next streamer video. Take care, everybody.